Ustalmy jedno, świat, Kamil Turecki. Witam Państwa. Naszym gościem wiceminister spraw zagranicznych Wielkiej Brytanii Tobias Ellwood. Welcome to Poland. It's great to have you here. Thank you for accepting our invitation.
Well, good morning. Dzień dobry. Pleasure to be here.
Dzień dobry. What's the main purpose of your visit in Poland?
There's a number of reasons. It's a real pleasure to be back here in Warsaw.
So it's not your first time in Poland?
No, I was here 2 years ago and then a year before that. I'm a regular visitor, so it's a pleasure to be here. We have an annual meeting, a gathering of think tankers, academics, of policymakers that get together every year. And we will meet in Krakow later today in order to talk about the bilateral issues, the strength of the relationship between our two countries, but also some of the regional challenges that we face. Last time I was here 2 years ago, the world's moved on since then. We now have a refugee crisis affecting Europe. We have extremism that's affecting us as well. We have the drop in oil price too, and a resurgent Russia. So these are important things that we'll be discussing and debating.
What are you going personally to talk about? What's the aim of your speech? Probably you are prepared for giving a speech.
Well, I congratulate Poland on hosting in July the big NATO summit. I was very involved in the summit, the previous one, held in Wales. I worked with the Prime Minister to help organize that. So I'm aware of the huge responsibility with the numbers of delegations that are coming through. So I congratulate Poland on hosting this important event. So my focus this time is to talk about the importance of the NATO alliance as it recalibrates itself in recognition of some of these threats that I've just spoken about.
Are you going to talk to Minister of Foreign Affairs of Poland, Mr. Witold Waszczykowski? It's a great chance.
We have a series of meetings with a number of ministers here in Warsaw, but also some of the ministerial people will be attending the event as well in Krakow.
But you didn't answer my question. Are you going to visit Polish Minister of Foreign Affairs, Mr. Witold Waszczykowski?
Well, we're meeting the program. The reason why I'm hesitating is because the program's still being determined. I know we're meeting people from the Ministry of Defense and the Foreign Affairs as well. So I'd hate to say yes and then find out that the program has changed slightly. It's just been confirmed.
So what are the greatest challenges nowadays?
Well, this is for us to discuss, but also for me to listen to the views from the Polish ministries and indeed the people of Poland as well. But we're aware that, as I mentioned, we have a resurgent Russia, and we have to recognize the fact that we have to stand up to any nation that chooses to redraw the map of Europe. And we also have to make sure that we support our NATO friends. And Poland is an important ally in not only NATO, but the European Union as well. And that's another reason why I'm here.
Are you concerning about what's happening in Poland, or it's a bit exaggerated in the news, in the media, and so on?
No, this is why it's important to come here, because when you are in the Western Europe, perhaps there's a perception that the threat, the challenges, the influence that is coming from a resurgent Russia perhaps is exaggerated. So it is important to come here and see what is actually happening and hear the voices and the concerns and what the Western nations can actually do. And so we are seeing a greater engagement, a greater understanding of the issue to make sure that there is a full understanding of what support we can provide Poland.
Will we wake up in a month in a new reality? You know what I'm talking about.
This is the European Union, the referendum. That's right.
Yes.
I didn't think I could come all the way here without you asking me that question. It's important.
We are all concerning about that.
I understand that. I mean, let's go back to the big Bloomberg speech which took place that David Cameron gave at the Bloomberg headquarters a year ago. And he made it very clear that he was passionate about the European Union, but there were concerns. And I think these are concerns that are shared across Europe. There's one of transparency, that Brussels produces all these rules and regulations, but voters, people, don't feel so close to what's going on. There is the lack of competition, allowing businesses to be able to flourish as best they can. We have a single market, but we still don't have a single energy market, the digital market and so forth, the services market. We need to be more involved and invigorated because the world around us is changing. We have competing spheres of influence from China, the United States and so on. So Europe needs to advance and develop as well. So we need to become more competitive and more transparent. And then there was concern about the Eurozone as well. We're outside the Eurozone. We have a big financial district as well. And there was a sense that if you weren't inside the Eurozone, you wouldn't be part of the club, of the direction of travel, and you would be somehow penalized. And David Cameron took these concerns around Europe, visited Poland as well, and many countries, in order to get support for changes to be introduced. And we're pleased that these changes some of them are already being introduced, some of them are pending, but it's important now that the British people have a chance to say, okay, we've seen where the European was, we saw where it's come from since 1975, the last time we had a referendum. Can we now support this generation, support the European Union into the future?
So, Mr. Ellwood, Brexit or Remain?
Absolutely. Britain is stronger, it's better off, it's more economically better placed if we remain in the European Union. So I personally believe that we will have a good outcome on the 23rd of June.
A few days ago, Prime Minister David Cameron warned Brexit can result in threatening peace in Europe. Do you agree with that words?
Well, we have to recognize that Britain's influence in Europe is amplified by us remaining part of Europe. We have some threats and challenges that I mentioned. International criminality, extremism, the events in Paris and Brussels actually show that we need to work closer together and not be more insular and more separated. Therefore, Britain leaving the European Union, there could be some dire consequences to that. Other nations may say, maybe I will follow suit as well. And that's what David Cameron was stressing, is that it's important for us to stay together, to work together. We are stronger together, and we can then actually deal with these challenges far better than if we are actually apart. So there is a security concern that us exiting the European Union will mean that we won't be able to tackle these challenges in the best way.
Sadiq Khan, new mayor of London, Muslim one, the sign of the times?
Well, we don't look at it. London is a multicultural, international, outlooking, wonderful city. So we don't label people in their religion in that terms. You say that he's Muslim. Yes, he is. But he's actually a British member of parliament for two things.
And so what if he is Muslim?
So what if he's Muslim? What it is a sign of the times that actually somebody can be elected for what they can do for the city and what they can do for the capital, rather than perhaps the labels that are actually attached to him. He was from the other party, but he's a respected member of parliament, has been for many years, and I'm sure I congratulate him on his win. And he's already had meetings with the mayor of Paris to see what work can be done to collaborate on security matters. But I'm sure he'll do a good job.
I've read quite a few articles about him and a few comments about him, and there is a concern that it's the very, very beginning of the Islamization of Europe.
Well, we need to. Who is writing this stuff, and what is their agenda? If you speak to any of them, the previous mayors, they will say, "I'm for London. I'm for Britain. I'm for promotion of Britain and its international place in the world." I think people are taking advantage of one aspect of Sadiq Khan's, his religion, and trying to play on it. Let's see how time moves forward. We have a business, our business Secretary of State is also Muslim, but he doesn't get labeled in the same way. That's not an Islamification of any sense. What it suggests is that we are a multicultural society in Britain, and that, I think, is to be celebrated.
How can potential Brexit impact on Poles in Great Britain?
Well, as I say, part of my job here is to promote the idea that we remain in the European Union. So I'm hoping that on the 23rd of June, we will continue not only to have a good relationship, but it will flourish with Poland as well. There has been some changes in that David Cameron has secured in the movement of people into Britain, but actually I'm hoping that there'll be little change as such. So it isn't a
little
question.
change. What kind?
Well, as it's already been clear that it's to do with the amounts of benefits that you can actually claim, not just from Poland, but from anywhere. Of how long when you can claim benefits, and for how long. The whole spirit of the ability of free movement in Europe is based around people seeking work and then working in different places. And what we saw after particularly in 2004, when new countries came into the European Union, is some people simply saying, I'm going to abandon my own country for a while and go somewhere else because perhaps attracted by increased benefits. And that I don't think was in the spirit of the original the original agreement. So what we're seeing now is a better approach. So people that are genuinely seeking work and secure work, of course, life will not change in that respect.
And the last question, I'm more than sure that you know the answer for that question. How did backstage talks look like between Donald Tusk and David Cameron a few months ago in terms of Brexit and their being in European Union?
Well, I wasn't there, so I can't really say.
But
all I'm saying is that where we are today is, this is a question many people abroad do ask, is if you're so passionate about the European Union, if you believe Britain's benefits from being in the European Union, in this single market of worth 500 million people, access to the whole of Europe, which is worth, I think, a quarter of the world's GDP, why are you even considering having a referendum? And it goes back to my original point, is that there were aspects of the European Union that it was drifting towards this political union based in Brussels, which ordinary people didn't feel accountable to. I'm accountable to Parliament. I just have to go to Parliament and I get quizzed, I get shouted at occasionally. If you have ever seen Prime Minister's Question Time, you will see how the Prime Minister is accountable to the people of Britain. Now, when you now think of the European Union, how is the European Union accountable to the people of Poland, to the people of Germany, to the people of Britain? And you can immediately see why voters would say, I'm affected by the rules that are coming out of Brussels, but I don't really have much say in it. And that's what we call the democratic deficit, which is, I think, the aspect that Donald Tusk recognizes needs to improve.
Mr. Ellwood, thank you very much for the interview. To był program Ustalmy, Jedno, świat. Ja się nazywam Kamil Turecki, a naszym gościem był Tobias Ellwood, czyli wiceminister spraw zagranicznych Wielkiej Brytanii. Kłaniam się Państwu i do zobaczenia.